The sun was shining bright at the community picnic, where families laughed, children played, and the smell of grilled food filled the air. It was the perfect afternoon, until the rumble of motorcycles shattered the peace. A group of rowdy bikers pulled up, their engines roaring as they strutted into the park like they owned the place. Their leather jackets and cocky grins made it clear they weren't here for the potato salad. They began taunting people, their loud voices silencing the cheerful chatter. Most avoided confrontation, hoping the troublemakers would get bored and leave. But one man sitting quietly at a picnic table didn't move a muscle. A retired veteran, he was there to enjoy the day like everyone else. The bikers, mistaking his calm demeanor for weakness, decided to make him their next target. Little did they know, they had just picked the wrong man to mess with. The veteran's eyes barely flicked up as the bikers swaggered closer, their mocking laughter echoing across the park. He was an older man, his graying hair tucked under a well-worn cap that bore the insignia of his military service. His posture was relaxed, yet there was something about the way he sat, calm, steady, that hinted at a depth few could see. "Hey, old man," one of the bikers sneered, loud enough to draw uneasy glances from nearby families. "What's with the tough guy act? You think you're something special?" His buddies chuckled, circling around the table as if daring the veteran to react. But the man didn't take the bait. Instead, he calmly folded his hands and leaned back, studying them with a quiet intensity that seemed to unsettle even the most brash among them. The crowd watched nervously, unsure of what might happen next. The leader of the bikers leaned in closer, slamming his fist on the picnic table to get the veteran's attention. The sound startled a few children nearby, and their parents began ushering them away, worried this might escalate. The man didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly took a sip from his drink, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he were measuring every second. "What's the matter, Grandpa? Cat got your tongue." The biker sneered, his voice dripping with false bravado. Behind him, his friends egged him on, growing bolder by the second. They didn't notice how the veteran's eyes briefly flicked over them, assessing, calculating, like a man who had seen far worse than a group of bullies. Meanwhile, a few onlookers whispered nervously, debating whether someone should intervene. One young boy, clutching a small toy, watched with wide eyes, sensing something unspoken in the air. It wasn't fear, it was control. The tension in the air was almost tangible as the bikers grew more aggressive, their taunts echoing louder with each passing moment. The veteran stayed seated, his expression steady, giving nothing away. The leader of the pack leaned in even closer, towering over him, trying to provoke a reaction. "You think you're too good to talk to us? Or maybe you're just scared," he snarled, his smirk widening as his buddies chuckled behind him. But the veteran's silence wasn't fear, it was precision. Every move, or lack of it, was deliberate. A few people in the crowd couldn't help but edge closer, curiosity overpowering their apprehension. Whispers rippled through the onlookers, some wondering who this quiet man really was. Others exchanged nervous glances, sensing something was about to happen. The bikers, unaware of the storm they were stirring, kept pushing. Then, with an almost imperceptible shift in his posture, the veteran finally moved. The leader of the bikers turned to face the woman, his smirk returning as he sized her up. "And who do you think you are?" He scoffed, his tone dripping with condescension. His crew chuckled, but their laughter sounded more forced this time. The woman didn't flinch. She crossed her arms and stepped closer, her gaze steady and unwavering. "You really don't know who you're messing with, do you?" she said, her voice calm but cutting. The veteran finally stood, his movements deliberate and unhurried. For the first time, the crowd could see his full stature, still imposing despite his age. He adjusted his cap, revealing a row of medals stitched along the side, each one telling a story of bravery and sacrifice. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado cracking as the realization began to dawn on them. But before anyone could react further, a sudden commotion erupted from the edge of the park. A black SUV with tinted windows rolled up, stopping abruptly. The doors swung open, and several more individuals stepped out, all wearing jackets identical to the woman's. They moved with precision, like a unit trained to work together, and their presence alone sent a ripple of shock through the onlookers. The bikers froze, their confidence evaporating as they realized they weren't just outnumbered, they were outmatched. The air was electric as the new arrivals approached, their movements synchronized and deliberate. The bikers, who had been so confident moments ago, now stood frozen, their cocky grins replaced with unease. The leader took a shaky step back, his bravado faltering completely. "What's going on here?" he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. The veteran stepped forward, his voice steady but commanding. "You came here looking for trouble," he said, his words carrying the weight of years of discipline and experience. "But you didn't expect to find people who know how to handle it." He gestured subtly to the woman and the group now flanking him. "We're not just veterans. We're a family, and we protect our own." The bikers, realizing they were in way over their heads, began mumbling excuses, trying to backtrack. But before they could leave, the woman stepped forward, pulling out her phone. "Not so fast," she said with a sharp edge to her voice. "We've got your faces and your actions recorded. Unless you want this sent to the authorities, you'll apologize to everyone here and leave quietly." The crowd, emboldened by the turn of events, began murmuring in agreement. The bikers, now thoroughly defeated, mumbled their apologies before quickly retreating to their bikes and roaring away, their bravado left behind in the dust. As the crowd began to disperse, the veteran turned to the woman with a slight smile. "You didn't have to step in," he said. She shrugged, grinning. "Family looks out for family." But as the group began to relax, one of the men from the SUV leaned in and said quietly, "We'll need to keep an eye on them. Something tells me this isn't over yet." The veteran nodded, his expression thoughtful, the calm before a potential storm. As the bikers sped off, the atmosphere at the picnic shifted, the tension dissolving into a sense of relief and quiet pride. Families began returning to their blankets and tables, the sounds of laughter and conversation slowly filling the park once more. The veteran watched the scene with a calm, satisfied expression. He wasn't one to seek attention, but he couldn't help feeling grateful for the community that had rallied around him. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder, her smile warm. "They won't be back," she said confidently. "And if they are, we'll be ready." The veteran nodded, appreciating her steadfast loyalty. The others from the SUV joined in, blending seamlessly into the gathering, their presence a silent reassurance. By the time the sun began to set, the picnic had returned to its original cheer, with an unspoken understanding lingering among the crowd. Strength comes in unity, and respect is earned, not demanded.